Welcome to the Abundance Hack Show, where we are inspiring you to ditch the outdated beliefs, release the blocks, and fully embrace your sovereignty so you can confidently expand to allow more love, joy, and aligned success in your life. I am Niajae, your conscious accountability partner, reminding you that abundance is your birthright. Hey M&Ms, thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. What are you manifesting in your life today? If you're joining me for the first time, although M&Ms are really yummy candies, it actually stands for magical manifestors. So I just wanted to say that before we get started. Today's guest is Stephanie Rae. She is a somatic experiencing practitioner and sex and intimacy coach. So I'm so excited to dive into what that is and how she helps people. But before we dive in, Stephanie, I want to ask you, what does abundance mean to you?
Abundance is like one of the most beautiful, magical words, I think, in the entire world, right? And abundance to me is more of an embodiment of how you live your life. You know, abundance isn't just people think money or pleasure, but it's in everything. It's in the way that the clouds look. It's in, soaking in every single moment. So abundant living and abundance to me is being fully present in the beauty that's around you, in the sensations and the emotions and everything that's around you every single day.
I love that. Such a yummy answer. I love it. Okay, so tell us about you. Who is Stephanie Rae?
Yeah, so I am a somatic experiencing practitioner and also a sex and intimacy coach, which I love all of my work. I have about 20 years training and practice with the body. So I am a yoga instructor, Reiki master teacher, energy healer, body worker. I have all of these, breathwork facilitator. But what they all did is laid a foundation to start to work with trauma healing, somatic trauma healing, and also empowering people to live their most sexually fulfilled life. And these are the two things that I am the most passionate about, besides my kids and also travel. Those are my three loves of life. So yeah, but as far as the work that I do, it's I like to actually call it somatic magic, because once you start working with the body, it's incredible, the magical wisdom and intuitive healing that we all possess inside of us once we can learn to tap into that.
I love it. Before we dive into exactly what somatic work is, how did you get started in this? Like, when was the moment that you're like, okay, this is meant for me to do this?
Yeah, so I think I had a couple moments. So I used to do like the whole corporate finance job downtown Chicago in the high rise investment banking. And I was like, oh my God, I'm suffocating. I'm literally dying inside. And so I quit and I decided to run off to an ashram and study yoga, meditation, and breath work. And so that was back in, I think, like 2007. And that's kind of when it all started. And from there, the energy work came in, deeper breath work for trauma release came in. But what really changed everything was at a personal development retreat I was at. All of the facilitators were trained somatic therapists and trained in somatic experiencing specifically. And I didn't know this at the time. I just kind of showed up. I had actually seen like some influencer talk about this retreat, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? It's over my birthday. Happy birthday to me. Let's go. But the work was so deep and it was very tantric in nature. So I resonated with it. And afterwards, I was like, what the hell are you doing to everybody? Because not only me, like having these beautiful moments of actually feeling deeply into my body and healing like layers of trauma and rage and grief that you can't access through cognitive therapy. I was like, what is this? Because I was also witnessing everybody, and I went back and I stacked for them and I watched hundreds more people and I was facilitating with this, and they told me, go through somatic experiencing, do breath work for trauma release. And so I immediately went home and I signed up for all these programs, and it was kind of the rest was history, because it changed my life so profoundly that I knew that I wanted to learn what had just happened to me from not only this, like, it's not actual magic, but it feels like it. I mean, there's a lot of neuroscience to back all of this up, and heavily studied, and it has a lot to do with the nervous system and the brain. But I was like, and now I want to teach this. This feels like the final layer. It's like the pinnacle of the pyramid for me. Everything has led me to this work. And so that's kind of how I got started, is actually through healing my own like sexual, relational, and attachment trauma.
Mm. So powerful. So, if someone has never heard of somatic work, though I'm familiar with it being somatic descent, am I saying that right? Somatic descent. Are you familiar with that?
Actually, I'm not totally familiar with that phrase.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna pretend that I am.
Okay. Well, no. So I know that
You
there's
taught
so
me,
many
so
different healing modalities.
yes.
There's so many variations. So if someone is like, okay, I've never heard of somatic experiencing, like, what is it? How would you explain it?
Yeah, so somatic work, soma means body. And so it's experiencing your body, and it's beginning to tap into a deeper level of healing. So when you go to talk therapy, it's very cognitive, right? It's really working with the front part of your brain, the frontal cortex. And that's where the affirmations come in, and that's where, speaking about and being witnessed in your story. And there's great power to that, and that has its place. And there's also work that needs to be done in the deeper parts of your brain, right? The limbic, the emotional, and the primal brain. And to access those areas and to have those really deep levels of healing, you've got to have access to the body. So most of the time people walk around and it's like, if I were to ask you, what sensations do you feel in your body right now? Most people are like, I've never actually been asked that. I've never paid attention to what the sensations are in my body, or I don't know what emotions I feel or how I experience them, or I just shut them down. I don't actually want to feel these things. And that's because that's where a lot of our trauma and our pain lives, is in these emotions and in the sensations in the body. And so when you start to access these areas, you start to get to these deeper levels of healing, also feeling, which then you can start to explore and expand. And it's just a very beautiful tool to work in conjunction with cognitive therapy, because then you're accessing every part of your brain. You're literally rewiring your nervous system to not be living in these numbed out, dissociated, hypervigilant states.
I love it. I love it. So I know that you mentioned the feeling of dying inside. And I think that a lot of people experience that feeling and they mask it. They mask it with different things from, drugs and alcohol and shopping and sex and video games. Like the list goes on. So if someone
Mhm.
is in a space where they feel empty inside, they feel like they're dying inside, they're numbing to avoid the pain, how can well, you just explain it, it helps get you back into their body, but what would you say to someone who is in that space to encourage them to seek out some type of healing modality like somatic experiencing?
Yeah, so I would really encourage somebody that is very new to this, or in that space where they feel that emptiness and they are distracting, dissociative, or leaning towards all of these distractions that you mentioned, to pause for a moment and maybe even write down, like, what is it that I'm feeling or I don't want to feel, or when did I start drinking all of the alcohol, like, or when did I start using the drugs, or when did I start getting super into porn, like all of these different distractions that you talked about. Like, what event happened that led you to start to consume and to distract and to numb out, and begin there, because there's usually something that triggers, and it could be clear back from childhood, right? So I mean, there's a lot of work that can be done there, but all of those addictions and all of those distractions are just masking. And what I find they're usually masking is deep grief, sadness, and rage.
Yeah, and we're definitely taught to suppress our rage. I think that the grief is something that we all have to navigate through life at some point, but we're definitely taught to suppress our rage and Because I do sound therapy, I always say that when you suppress emotions, it turns into a trapped emotion, and then it turns into a physical ailment. Physical ailments turn into disease. So it's a process. So when you've worked with someone doing somatic experiencing, what are some of the breakthroughs that your clients have had? Like, how has it impacted the other areas in life once they've done some of the work and the healing?
Yeah, so I mean, I love everything that you just said, and that really is the basis of somatic work, right? Is to not be suppressing all of these emotions and to bring these things to the forefront and to feel your way through them. And so often that, people get stuck because it's painful. The healing process isn't easy, and we want to sugarcoat it and we want to wave a magic wand. And that's the first thing that I always tell people is no, it's actually probably you're going to feel more broken before you feel like whole and aliveness, because you have to go through the tunnel. Otherwise, you're just stuck in the tunnel, right? And if you quit moving, you're never going to see the light at the end. You're never going to get out and see this beautiful view. And so, yeah, some of the things that I mean, I've really been able to see, and my work primarily is with sexual trauma and then also sexual healing. And so, healing your sexual trauma is one of the most important things that I think that somebody can do, because once you begin to reclaim your sexuality and you get to reclaim your power and you get to navigate your way through the grief, through the loss, through the rage, through the even self-blame happens quite often with sexual trauma. Once you get to navigate your way through that and really feel your way through that and express these things that have been trapped or frozen in the body, all of a sudden you wake up and there's this aliveness. So your sexual energy is also a source of your life force, of your creativity. And so I've seen a lot of people go from completely dissociating during sex, and this could be, just like numbed out, and they don't even like it. They're not even pleasure. Like they don't even really want to have it. And when they do, they're dissociated, or they're just having all the sex in the world, but they're completely dissociated from it. And they're just going through the motions, to all of a sudden being these, like, having such deep presence and deep intimacy and deep connection when they do engage in sexual activity, and it's on their terms and it's their choice. So also something, with sexual trauma that can happen is an inability to orgasm, because you're holding so much tension in, and there's so much emotions and feelings wrapped around your orgasm. And so once you start to work your way through that and work your way through the trauma and through, like I said, the grief, the rage, the pain, all of a sudden, like, I've seen people become completely multi-orgasmic and be able to really experience so much more pleasure and joy in their life. And pleasure not only in a sexual way, but like I said, just even like walking outside and being able to soak in the sun or just look at the clouds and be like, holy fuck, has this been out here every day and I've just missed this? So the pleasure in their life really magnifies tenfold. There's a certain aliveness that comes through you when you're able to empty yourself out and do this almost on a daily basis, right? Embodiment and healing is a daily thing. It's not something that's ever going to go away. It's not like, oh, I'm healed, I'm done, like,
Yeah.
life is perfect. Yes, I have reached the end. And so as you're doing this work, you're gaining the tools, and so it doesn't have to be as painful as it was in the beginning. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this, let me feel this, and then move through it. It doesn't have power over me, and I'm not numbing it out, and I'm not going to binge Netflix and eat a gallon of ice cream to numb out my feelings. I'm going to feel this, and then I'm going to go play.
Yes, I love it. And I say the same exact thing. It's a lifestyle. It's not like poof, I've arrived and like you're done the work. Some people think that, and I love that you said that, because I say it all the time on the podcast, and I feel like we need that reminder, because sometimes it seems like a never ending process, and some people look at that as almost a negative thing, but it's like it's a lifestyle. It's adapting these healing modalities in as tools in your tool belt to help you navigate the different challenges in life. And it sounds like you found a really beautiful way of making it fun and exciting, and knowing that you can have multiple orgasms on the other side is something to look forward to.
Right? I mean, who doesn't want that? Let's be honest.
Right. So, okay, I have a couple of questions. So, do you work with men and women?
I do. I do. I
Okay.
actually work probably about 65% men.
Okay.
Yeah, and 30% women.
I think that's really interesting. And I think it's important for my audience to hear, because I think that society will lead you to believe that it's only women who have sexual trauma.
Hmm.
And I believe that men do as well, but they don't talk about it. It doesn't register in their brain that, like, hey, I may need this. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I love working with men. And like you said, society really shuts men down from asking for help. It's not masculine, or you're not allowed to cry. I was just with, a wonderful friend last week, and he was, kind of almost boasting that he doesn't ever cry. And I was like, oh, it's not masculine to cry. And especially, being vulnerable about around sexual trauma. And it doesn't actually have to be sexual assault. There's a lot of sexual conditioning that men have. Men are expected to walk around with, this massive cock, hard on all day, can last forever. And that's just how they're supposed to be, because that's what society and porn have trained men that they have to be like. So when you start to have things like erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, or recovery after cancer, different things, men feel a lot of shame around their sexuality too, and they need the healing as well. They need to be able to work through the anxieties that causes, and the depression, and they need safe places to be able to talk about this, where they're not going to be judged, or and that they can also know that it's private and it's confidential, because it's completely stigmatized to have any of these sexual dysfunctions, and especially sexual trauma. And men don't report sexual trauma because oftentimes they're not believed, of how could that have happened to you. And there's so much. So the statistics, they're out there. It's 1 in 3 women, 1 in 6 men, and that's just what's reported. And I always like to cap that with, most people don't report, for a variety of reasons, which we could go into on a whole nother episode. But especially men, they don't report. So that number is so much higher. It's so much higher. And it is something that a lot of men struggle with.
You can't avoid disappointment. You can't avoid pain. Pain is a catalyst for alchemy. We just have to choose the perspective of growth. With the right tools, you can navigate life in a healthy manner, get out of survival mode, and start thriving. We're taught to suppress, dismiss, and deny how we're feeling. We're not taught to honor how we feel. We're not taught to honor our desires. We convince ourselves we don't need them because they aren't being provided. It's time to stop betraying yourself. It's time to connect back to your true self. It's time to connect to your intuition. If you are ready to step into your divine energy, passion, and purpose, join us in Heal with Sound, a self-mastery program by Niajae. This transformational 12-week program will provide tools that you will have forever to help you alchemize your pain, gain clarity, strengthen your intuition, and bring you back to a place of peace and alignment when life throws you off track. This program will use sound therapy, mindfulness, journaling, and a couple more powerful healing tools. It's not about who you want to be. It's about how you show up every day. Are you ready to show up your best? Go to Niajae.com for more information. Master your thoughts and habits, and you can master your life. I love that you're doing this work, and I love starting this dialogue so there is a man that feels safe or comfortable reaching out to someone like you that specializes in this, because I think society definitely makes it seem like it's not okay to do this type of work. But I think it would be really, really powerful. And I can only imagine how better business and communication and connection with people will be when they do this work.
Absolutely. And when they can really connect in with their sexuality from their own empowered place, right?
Mhm.
From their own empowered masculinity, not what society has told them that the masculine looks like. And when
Mm.
they can connect in with that and they can connect that sexual energy and they can connect the energy of their cock up with their heart, and this is also very tantric in nature, the intimacy that they can feel and that emotional connection that they can feel with their partner or just in their friendships and like you said even in their business in their life it's like it magnifies, they light up. And there's this integrated inner child like play, like they can play more, they can connect more, and there's just so much more ease when men have safe places to do their healing for sexual trauma or anxiety or whatever it is, sexual shame, conditioning. There's a lot of religious conditioning as well that men
Mhm.
face. I mean, women as well, but there is a lot that men face that is not talked about as much.
Yeah, such a powerful topic. And I feel like we can do an episode just on sexual trauma, but I do want to shift focus just a little bit. You mentioned epic ecstatic sex. So what what is that? Tell me more.
Something that everybody has the possibility and the capability within them to experience, right? And so the tools that I tell people that they need to focus on to have this epic, ecstatic, orgasmic sex and experiences are to really embody, first of all, sound, to make sound. Like so much we hold back our voices and we think that if we're loud and we're like making these primal sounds we're going to look like a crazy person or something. But I really encourage people to sound while they're making love, to sound while they're fucking, to sound while they're having sex, whatever it is, because once you're moving that sound and that energy, you're connecting deeper in with these emotional and primal parts of your brain, which help get you out of your frontal cortex, which is where everybody gets stuck during sex, right? It's like, how do I look? Oh my god, my ass is showing and there's some cellulite there, he's going to hate the way I look. Like, the lights on, what is this smell? Like, people are in the front of their head, so the more you can sound, it gets you out of your mind and into these deeper states of ecstatic bliss. And then the second thing is breathing. So often you hold your breath and you don't even realize it, or your breath gets stuck, or you're breathing really shallow. So when you're able to breathe, you're able to move sexual energy through your body, which is really beautiful, and you're able to be more present, right? If you're holding your breath, your body starts to go into fight or flight. That's just what happens. And so if you're breathing, your body's able to relax. And at a higher level, you can be doing like moving sexual energy and, doing really deep tantra practices that are really yummy and juicy as well. And the third thing is movement. So really allowing yourself to move, while you're making love, and to move your body, to move your hips, to move around, and to just not just be stiff. Because the more that you can move, and you know this because you do sound healing, you do all this, the more that you can move your body, the more fluid you are. And once again, you get out of your brain, your frontal part of your brain, and you're more into the sensations and more into the experience. So the fourth thing that I recommend is paying attention to your energy as well, right? So this can just be, if people don't necessarily believe in the chakras and energy, it can be just what are the sensations that you're feeling in your body? Like, can you feel your lover's hands on your skin? Can you feel, the different sensations that are going on? And at a deeper level, if you want to like feel into your energy and start to feel into your sexual energy and move it through your body, it's a really beautiful practice to get into these more ecstatic states. And the last one is presence. Presence. So having a deep presence, right? So you're not making your grocery list. You're not worried about the kids. You're not worried about how you look. You're not worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. All of these different things. You're really in the moment. Like, how can I stay in the moment even more? And presence, I often find, is through the breath, movement, and sound as well, and focusing on the energy and the sensations. So these 5 tools, anybody can reach these states, even if you've never had an orgasm before. I Everybody is capable. of having an orgasm and reaching these expanded states. It takes practice. It might not happen overnight. It won't. Once again, there's no magic wand. And if there was, you and I could run off and like live on an island and right, be bazillionaires. Like, here's your magic wand for orgasmic bliss, right? Everybody would buy it. Everybody would buy it. But it's once again, it's a practice, and it's implementing these into your life and into your sexual practice over and over and over again.
I love it. I love it. You mentioned chakras. So obviously with sound therapy, I am totally into the chakras. So do you think that some of the people that come to you have a block in their sacral chakra?
100%, because that's where sexual trauma, sexual shame, sexual conditioning gets trapped, right? So a lot of work is really beginning to move that energy around. And so I do that, through teaching self-pleasure practices, through jade practices, through tantric breath work, lots of different things. But yes, absolutely, because I am hard. With the women that I've worked with, and spoken to, there's probably nobody I can think of off the top of my head that has no form of sexual shame, conditioning, or trauma. It's something that most women have. And so really working with that energy in a very delicate and sensitive and a safe, loving, compassionate way is a key to begin to unlock also the creativity and that life force and the sexual energy and all the yumminess and juiciness in life.
I absolutely love it. And I'm sure people are going to have more questions. So we're going to have to bring you back for another interview. So yeah, definitely M&M, send your questions so we can dive deeper into this topic because I'm so intrigued. So I want to wrap up with one final question. What are your top 3 tips for living an abundant life?
Move your body every day. Dance, shake, move, put on one song. It doesn't take long, but move your body every day so you start to become into the flow and you start to embody and move. The second thing would be to begin to embody the worthiness of abundance. I feel like that's where a big block with abundance is that most people don't feel worthy of it. So maybe even while you're moving and dancing, a practice that I love to give is to just whisper to yourself, I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. So then you're doing the affirmations and the movement. You're activating all the parts of your brain. And that is how you rewire your nervous system to believe that you are worthy of abundance. And the third is to look for beautiful things all day long. And when you see them, just take a breath, hand over the heart, take a breath, and just say thank you. And that's as simple as like you're driving. This morning I was driving my kids to soccer practice and I looked up and like the sun's peering through the clouds and it's like, take a breath, thank you. And the more that you can notice these beautiful things, the more that you orient to them and the more that they show up in your life.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So good. So yummy. And I do that. I actually do like little thymus taps too, like to just anchor in some feeling. So I know, like I did a chakra series and I didn't mention the thymus chakra, but between your heart and your throat, you have the thymus, which is the chakra that controls gratitude. So placing your hand there or just doing like a little tapping will just like really tap into that gratitude feeling. And when your body starts to feel more gratitude and pleasure and bliss, then you allow more in. So those are so good. So good. So if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you online?
I'm at Breathe Burn Rise on Instagram, Facebook. Actually, though, my website is Stephanie Rae Coaching. So I'm in a little bit of a transition. So yeah, Stephanie Rae Coaching or Breathe Burn Rise.
Perfect. I will definitely have all of your links in the show notes so people can reach out if they are interested in some somatic work. And I love everything that you're doing. So I hope we can do another interview and just dive deeper into the topic. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
Awesome. All right, M&Ms, until next time, be decadent. Thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. I would love to hear from you. Leave your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our yummy episodes. Every time you leave a 5-star rating or review, I do my happy dance.